everybody, this is the Plastic Commando coming to you today from deep behind enemy lines. Today I'd like to talk about national production charts, the income trackers that typically come within board games in the Axis Allies series and other games such as perhaps historical board gaming's 1936, 1945, but primarily the IPC trackers and Axis and Allies as a means of keeping up with your income. So today, though, I want to talk about, really look at the value of having a good national production chart for gameplay. And then, of course, the question is, well, what makes a good NPC chart anyway? As you can see in the video and from the old classic games up to the present, we've got various kinds of charts for tracking income, various sizes, some that are apart, some that are actually part of the game map, as you see on the upper part there of the 1942 version, as well as in the distant, the Europe side of the global 1940 map. But what I believe makes for a good national production chart, though, in gameplay, for Axis and Allies, is 5 factors, which I have looked to in order to try to come up with a customized national production chart, specifically for Axis and Allies World War I 1914, obviously of which I've been doing a lot of customizations with for some time. But I wanted to focus primarily on five factors that I believe make for a good national production chart, and what I was looking for in customizing a chart for my game. First is number 1, functional. I believe this is the most important. It has to be functional. We have to have a means of tracking our industrial production credits, or IPCs, in the game. And essentially, this is the money from the bank based on the powers that track, their production levels. And of course, this is done by placing a control marker on the chart, given the value of each of the territories. As kind of examples we got here, I've got some of the custom World War I markers on my national production chart for World War I. So it's just a means of being able to track your income during gameplay, okay? So it has to be functional, number 1. Otherwise, it's a moot point. So it has to have a functional ability to be able to clearly do that and keep track of your money. Number 2, clarity. I believe that a good national production chart has to be easy to read, has to be visible, so all the players know the amount of money each power receives, as well as their starting level of IPC. But during gameplay, obviously, as you know, income levels are going to go up and down, so you got to have a national production chart that's good and visible for players to be able to keep track of others' income as well as your own. Number 3, it's appeal. It has to be appealing. It has to look great with your layout. In my opinion, it has to be sharp and not just some afterthought that's thrown in a box and called a national production chart. And yes, I'm talking to you, Wizards of the Coast. Number 4, separate. It has to be separate, in my opinion, from the game map. In other words, a national production chart, I think, has to be separate from the actual game map itself. It's just for ease of play during gameplay, depending on your setup, the size of your table. You might want to shift that around, and you might want to position it to where maybe it's more accessible and visible to other players without having to have somebody run across the table, or appoint someone to be the the tracker mover, if you will. But like, for example, the map here, the 1942 second edition map, as you see, the white tracker, income tracker for production. Not a fan of this at all. I mean, from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks like one big giant iceberg at the top of the game map, and not a fan of that at all. It's just unappealing. There's nothing exciting about it, truthfully. To an extent, the G40 map out of box, has the income tracker, the national production at the top, and again, I'm just showing the Europe side of the map for purposes of this video. It overlays on top of the map itself. Again, I'm just not a fan of that. Some might like it, but I just think that a good national production chart needs to be separate. So, for example, I mean, you don't have, during gameplay, you don't accidentally have control markers that get mixed in with your roundels on the map, or you get your control marker knocked off during gameplay of the with people moving game pieces on the map itself. So I just think it has to be separate and apart from the physical game map itself. And then number 5, the national production chart, in my opinion, has to be relevant. And what I mean by that, thematically, it really has to fit your game. So as an example for what I'm looking for, although I like, out of all of the national production charts, in my opinion, I like the MPC chart that comes with Axis Allies Europe. And this is the 1999 version of Europe, long before G40 came out. I like this one just because of it meets various criteria that I'm looking for. It's it's certainly functional, no doubt about that. It's very clear, laid out very nice. Obviously, you've got the starting control markers for each of the powers. It's nice and clear. It's appealing. It's got the nice factory symbols as well. That's appealing, and it's relevant. It's relevant for this game, obviously. So I do like this. This is one of my favorite charts, truthfully. I do like this one a lot. But at the same time, for what I'm looking to do to customize a national production chart for Axis and Allies World War I 1914, this MPC chart's not relevant. Obviously, it's World War II. Neither is Pacific, Classic. Obviously, it's got a weapons development chart, which does not apply to World War I. Over here, we've got Global 1936-45 from HBG. Although I do like this chart for Global. It's World War II. I mean, you could use it if you wanted to. It's a basic chart. It's got a lot of values, numerical values, so you could certainly use it. And the one thing I do like about HBG's chart is, for example, just use my World War I markers. You can actually place several nice markers within each number space. And that's helpful when you get different powers that perhaps end up having the same amount of IPC value. So I do like that. There's a lot of room. It's big. So again, very functional. This one's nice as well. All right. So for what I need though, with a customization, is the 5 factors which I just talked about. And I'll be honest with you, the out-of-box national production chart that came with Axis and Allies World War I 1914 does not meet any of the 5 factors which I look for, period. And thus, that's the reason for my customization. Number 1, it's not functional. It's on the game map. It's small, very small. You see how each of the roundels are bunched up, and God forbid if you end up having the same same power or three that has a base of 30, and then of course, if anybody knows this tracker, it's a multiples of 10, and then oh well, you have to have another marker and figure out, is it number 31, 32. You end up having to have two markers that ought to be usable on one actual tracker. So functional wise, this is dumb. Never liked it. Clarity, I mean, it's clear. I guess it meets a clarity standpoint, but all this busyness going on here, in my opinion, is really detracts from the clarity. It's not appealing whatsoever. I mean, you've got the Grand Canyon that's flowing through the map here, where the map folds over. It's stuck in Africa. Other than the artwork behind it, the chart itself, in my opinion, is just not appealing. It's not separate and apart from the map, which I talked about earlier. Big negative for me. It's not relevant. I mean, it's not very relevant in my opinion. Again, with all this busyness going on, having to stack up, control markers, it just looks awful. So for those reasons, and that's generally everybody's complaint, I wanted to do a customization for the game in order to make the game more appealing and pleasing during gameplay. So my need for a good NPC chart relates specifically to the customization of Axis Allies WW1. Okay, and this tracker, frankly, is just the most asinine NPC tracker that ever came with an Axis and Allies game, and that's really my whole point in all this. Now, I do like all of these in their own way. This is another HBG. It's a very basic tracker. This one's specific. This is probably my least favorite, just because the way the numbers snake around. I mean, I just never. The game itself is okay, but I just never liked this tracker. Always liked really the classic. Nothing fancy whatsoever, just down and dirty, to the point. So that's always a favorite of mine. But what I've done is basically created my own income tracker from scratch. And that's the only way that I felt like that I could realistically get the type of national production chart that I was looking for. And this is the final piece. This is the final product that I came up with. And got a little bit of glare. I used this concept that I came up with. It's software based that I made. I took some cues from others that have used some software. In particular, more recently, got some inspiration from Der Kunstler, and some of the things that he's doing with his with his map and things that he's done with gameplay. So I do like it, and there's others I know that have used software, but this is what I've came up with, and I think this is most relevant for what I'm looking to do for my game in Axis and Allies. Of course, I've got the the logo, which I've used here, and I'm referring to this as my deluxe edition because I'm basically customizing the heck out of this game. So this is my deluxe NPC chart. Of course, down here we've got it nicely identified. It's it's nice and clear. It's got some appeal to it. Got some bright color, and it's very relevant. It's got all the minor and major powers as well. Numerically, it's nice and neat. It holds the roundels real nice. They all fit real nice. So took a little bit of work, but I think I've got everything that meets the 5 points that I'm looking for. And real brief, what I'd like to do is just show you how I came up with this. And it's something that ended up being very simple, but it took a while, took some work to get done. So let me move on over to the computer. And actually, before we go to the computer, I meant to actually let you guys know this this backing is styrene. It's a styrene backing, and to kind of give you an idea of the what I've used and what it's made from. This is 3 mil vinyl. That's my image was printed with vinyl, 3 mil, and it's on 0.040 styrene for those that might be interested in making a chart for themselves. It's very durable, you know, sturdy. It's not going to bend, you know, unlike this one here from Pacific, just very thin, almost cereal box cardboard. But this is 0.40 styrene, so it's really good. It lays flat. So just want to throw that in, and again, shout out for my local printer, Alpha Graphics. They're the ones that did my custom World War I map that I had previously shown in a video that I had printed out. And so anyway, this is basically just a small scaled down version of what this MPC tracker is made from. Okay, I'm at my computer desk and I've got the production chart pulled up here on the computer, and specifically the software program that I used was Microsoft Publisher. And I wanted to say, you know, from the outset that the inspiration for creating this production chart and using software actually came not long ago from Der Kunstler's videos, watching his progress on his Uber map. And I believe, though, he's using Photoshop, and just in watching the videos and then also looking at the need for myself and having a different type of production chart out of necessity, and also something that would fit custom rules that I'm using for Axis Allies 1914. I thought, well, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is create this on my own, and of course using software is going to be the best way of doing that anyway. So again, a big shout out to Der Kunstler for just the inspiration for diving into some software that, frankly, I've never had a need for using in my line of work or for home. But I do have Microsoft Office Suite, and I thought, well, it's got Publisher, so why not dive into the software and figure out how to use it? And of course, lo and behold, I realized that it's not that hard to use to begin with. So so it did work out really nice. The colors, as you can tell from the finished product that we looked at earlier, were all printed off virtually how you see them on the screen, and that's one positive that I was very happy about. Sometimes the differences in monitors and colors, sometimes when that's translated into print, can be different. So I did want more of a vibrant color scheme, and that certainly transferred well to the print job that came out in the end. So real brief though, the process really is simple. I had a concept of what I wanted to look at, and the cool thing is with the various headings in Publisher, it makes the process of creating something with software very easy. And in particular for this production chart, what I was looking for specifically was a chart. And then I found that in using you click down on page design, and then you're going down here to to grid and baselines. Then it gives you plenty of options that you can use to basically create the type of grid you were looking for. And so I had in my mind trying to get as large a production chart, but not being too large that I wanted. So I wanted at least 10 rows that could easily accommodate 80, which I believe is well more than you'll need in this game. But I did want a production chart that would have the ability to have an IPC at least up to 80. And so what I basically did is just with the grid pattern, zoom in here a little more. I mean, basically you can just change the type of grid that you're looking for. And here we went up to 10, and then on the horizontal row, whoops, there we go, and then got the basic grid pattern, which ended up being where the factory industrial complex icons were going to be, the numbers. And then once I established the grid pattern, I just applied that to the overlay that I was working from. And then basically a lot of this came from pictures. You got the little heading here, pictures online, that you can go to. Of course, I had found the various flags online, different websites that I was looking for that matched the the countries, the minor powers as well as the major powers in the game itself. So I had those, and it was just a matter of pulling those up, pasting them onto the field, and then once I had the chart, coming up with the little factory icon. I found that actually, I think, through online pictures as well here, and I dressed it up by putting a black border around it, and then the numbers I used primarily the font stencil, and I just changed the color, with red, and I think that turned out nice. I wanted to keep a universal font, so the number itself was stencil, and then the national production chart was stencil as well. And I changed the font on that and made that a white outline to make it stand out a little better. And can't be more pleased how it turned out. And it really was a simple process. It was time consuming in putting all of the numbers, typing each of the numbers in, having to paste and put those in one by one. The one thing I did like was the color schemes, the fading color, as you can see, from the dark to the lighter in the middle and the dark on the end. Again, all of this, I mean, it's just a matter of just pulling down your headings at the top. I mean, it's really, it's not rocket scientist if you're comfortable using computers. It was just a matter of me spending an afternoon figuring out what worked, what didn't work, and then once I did, it was really an easy process. And the one cool thing that I'll say to finish up is the one good thing about Publisher that I found, and I'll try to maybe zoom in here if I can. Yeah, and you can see where the mouse is got the icon around or the outline around the number 2. Everything that I found on Publisher, you can get it to line up just perfectly with the grid pattern. Every flag that I put, let's say on the left hand side with a grid, I could easily match that up height wise, width, with the corresponding side. And so that allows a lot of uniformity in being able to produce a software publication that at the end of the day is going to look good and very uniform, which is what I was looking for. I had made some attempts in the past to try to freehand a chart that I used a few years ago in trying to do some house rules, and it after you printed it out, you started realizing, one box was a little bit bigger than the other, and so using Microsoft Publisher, I found is really the way to go. So anyway, I just wanted to show that with you. I mean, it's a very simple process in the end. I think there was maybe a little more heightened anxiety in just using software than there should have been, but it turned out great. Pleased with it, and of course you can save it and make changes, come back, and you've always got a kind of a master copy if you want to change it around. So anyway, that's how I came up with the chart, and then we're going to wrap this video up. So in the end, I guess if we had to pick a number 6 factor for, again, what makes for a good national production chart, it would have to be creativity. And obviously doing customization, you have to be a little bit creative. But again, for those of you who might be wanting to do something similar, I'd encourage you to to use your creativity. Draw you out an outline, get an idea, get some ideas from others, other charts that you've seen in games, and just spend an afternoon on the computer if you've got Publisher, or I'm sure there's some other software programs that you could utilize, but I think Publisher will do the best job for you. It's again, it's almost simplistic in the way that once you get it going, it all lines up real nice. So in any event, let me know your thoughts, guys. I'm curious if any of you all have made some customized charts for your game, and give me some comments, feedback, and I will see you on the next video. I encourage those of you who have not subscribed to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There'll be future videos coming, and I do appreciate all your support. This is the Plastic Commando, over and out.